Welcome, y'all, to another edition of WoT Talk, or Wheel of Time Talk, episode 10. And boy, do I have something cool for you today. First and foremost, let's just get it out of the way. Rafe Judkins, of course, did another WotWednesday. He posted a snippet from one of his scripts. It's basically the opening scenes with Tam and Rand. It's only a couple paragraphs, and it's just kind of descriptions, no dialogue even, really. But it's really cool, and it's nice to see how he's interpreting it and what his writing style is like. So if you have not already, I would go follow him on Twitter and check that out. But in the last WoT Talk, I asked you guys, don't worry, I'm not going to get into spoilers yet, but I asked you what scenes you are most looking forward to seeing brought to the screen, and that actually resulted in pretty much being almost no spoiler-free comments in the comments section of that video. But for you spoiler-free guys and you all who are interested in kind of more background behind the scenes thing, I have the graphic novel of New Spring, and I know what you're thinking. How can I possibly give you anything from a graphic novel over this medium and it work? Well. It's actually pretty cool, because what I have in the back of the graphic novel is a bunch of email correspondence between Robert Jordan and a couple of people involved in creating this graphic novel, and you have a lot of interesting notes from Robert Jordan describing exactly how he wants these things portrayed, what really matters to him. I find it fascinating. It gives a whole new insight into like the ageless look of the Aes Sedai, all this stuff. So for the spoiler-free part, I want to go through these emails and just kind of dig into some of the stuff that was going on back and forth and what Robert Jordan really wanted to see when it comes to bringing the look of his world to life. So we're going to go ahead and jump on in and do that for the spoiler-free section. After that's over, we will jump into the spoiler-filled section. So starting off here, we have From Robert Jordan to Les Dabble from Wednesday, March 24th, 2004 at 2:55 p.m. Subject, New Spring Script. Dear Les, I decided to look beyond the first few pages and found that this is indeed a new script. I'm sending you a copy of it with my comments. Chuck took many of my comments to heart in places and occasionally bettered them, but in others, which are very important, he seemed to ignore them altogether. There are mentions of Aiel riding horses, wearing armor, carrying pikes, all these things that the Aiel don't do. And he still has Moraine, Swan, Tamara, and Gitara wearing robes instead of dresses. I hope he will take to heart the comments I have put into the script. Take care, Les. All the best, Jim. I don't know why Robert Jordan refers to himself as Jim, but apparently maybe that's his real name and Robert Jordan's a author name. I don't know. I actually need to learn more about that. But already we as a fans can unite and say, hey, Chuck, get your shit together, man. This isn't cool. But moving forward, we have one from the next day from Robert Jordan to Les again. We actually don't get the responses from Les for some reason, but we always just get the from Robert Jordan to Les emails. Dear Les, very good. Please tell Chuck that he did an excellent job. There's only one point that I need to raise. Tamara and Gita would not be wearing robes. The descriptions of their dresses and jewelry can be found in the book. I appended a note to that effect in the note on the relevant panel, and I'm sending you this version back. Once that change is made, I'm good with the script. Chuck, they wear dresses, man. Of course, it's Robert Jordan who's just like, man, did you not pay attention to when I described the clothes? From Robert Jordan the next day. Dear Les, very good. I added a note for the Trollocs at the end and corrected a few typos. Then he just talks about a couple typos that Chuck seemed to have added. As for the ageless look, now this I found interesting, I think kind of cool for the series as a whole. I have always imagined it as being a difficulty in setting an age to the woman. You glance at her the first time and think she's 40, but the next instance you think she can't be more than 20. You just can't settle on where she belongs in an age bracket. If you try the idea about combining the two faces, I suggest using 20 and 40, not 50. But do you then end up with a face that simply looks 30? I wish I could give more guidance or a good suggestion. It's a lot easier when you only have to envisage this image in your head. Take care. So it seems like he didn't even entirely know the best way to describe the ageless look, and this makes me curious of how it's going to be done in the TV the TV format, because it's not easy, and it's one of the things I think they might actually drop altogether. I think they'll just say they don't really age, not that they're ageless. because wow, can you imagine what that's like as a makeup artist if someone came in and was just like, make it so you can't place this person's age? I would just kind of, what? Anyway, moving on. This is by far the longest email. I'll try to summarize some parts, but he's going over some things that really seem to matter for him in terms of the look of his book and series. So I think most of it, or not all of it, I'm going to keep in from this email, but it's just kind of the real nitpicky stuff he's getting into. It's from Wednesday, March 31st, 2004. Subject, RE characters. Dear Les, I'll get into the additional characters ASAP. Here are my comments on the new images. The Aiel are very good except for the boots, which still need to look more like Apache moccasins. That is how they are described in the main sequence books, a soft-laced boot. The coat is much better. As a note, remember that the Aiel average about 6'2" for a man and about the same for a Maasai. There are plenty of them as tall as Land and Bukama, and a few taller. An Aiel man who is 5 feet 10 inches tall would be considered short by himself and by other Aiel. The eagle-beaked Trolloc is very good. It was a small thing, but the devil is in the details, and Trollocs don't get ornamentation on their weapons, plain, so to speak, despite all the hooks, etc., functional, and not a lot of effort into making them look good. They aren't exactly crude. Crudely made weapons don't usually function as well-made ones, but they are never fancy. So right there, you can tell Robert Jordan is certainly someone who's not going to let anyone change his world in small ways. He wants it to be an exact reflection, which I respect. And now he's going to talk about Cadsuane. Cadsuane. This is not so good. She looks too old and too thin, almost gaunt. Her dress is way too frilly for Cadsuane, and it shows way too much cleavage. Her garments are silk, but cut simply. When she has lace, it's just a touch, perhaps at the neck and cuffs. We all remember that description, I'm sure. But she more likely doesn't have any lace at all. She's a woman who does a lot of traveling, and she wants clothes that are easy to care for, can be tended by a poorly trained maid, and some country inn. The cross-lacing is off. Dresses in this world almost always button up the back, and Cadsuane is more likely to have a high neckline than not. She makes no effort to appear in the highest or latest fashion, nor does she try to impress other women with her clothes or jewelry, or to attract men. She's too busy for such foolishness as she sees it. She is quite impressive enough to be she is quite impressive enough being who she is. Thank you very much. The hair ornaments also appear to be attached to one another, which they aren't. Each of her 10 ornaments hang from their own individual hairpins. The bun should be to the top right of her head, not toward the back. Man, that is detail. Holy God. All right. Moving on. On another note on her character, more about Cadsuane. Cadsuane was born in the city of Farmatting. Okay, we all know about Farmatting, so I don't need to go into this. But he's basically saying that Farmatting shapes who she is as a person, so she doesn't hate men, but it's more of a dominance over them vibe going forward. And now he's moving on to Guitarra Morso. I like this very much, though the dress would not be off the shoulder. That strapless look isn't used in this world. Most Aes Sedai wouldn't show that much bosom, but Guitarra would. And I like the face too, very good. Moraine. The dress is excellent. Dude, he cares about his dresses. Though the sleeves are a bit too wide. I think, remember, acceptance dresses are described as simply cut. But the face seems to have shifted again. Let me jump in here. I don't know what simply cut for a dress is. If someone wants to clarify with that, I'm a little bit clueless on that. I've attached the face that I approve for Moraine and Swan. Also, she wouldn't have her hair in a bun. It would be worn loose. Her left hand also seems way too big. It's nearly half the width of her waist. I would love to see the actual image that he's referring to, because I can't imagine an artist would do that. Wow. Rhine. This is very good, except that his expression here seems to be on the sour side. That would be okay at the end when he's unmasked as okay, that's a spoiler, but the continuous view of Rhine until then is that he's charming and personable. He's much more likely to be smiling, especially if there's a pretty woman around. As a note, the dagger he is holding is too elaborate in the blade shape. I know there are a lot of fancy blade shapes out there today. Jill Hibben has much to answer for, but knives and daggers are or were historically used by actual people had for practical reasons for their blade shapes. Even the yataga and the falcata. Man, this guy knows his stuff. Tamara. Overall, she looks very good. The only things I don't like are the off-the-shoulder dress, too much cleavage showing for her. Her dress would have high neckline, which like what you show on the accepted dress from Moraine's image, or at least a neckline that's showing no cleavage. And her hands both look much too large. The left hand is also oddly shaped. Bukama, yes, I like this one much better. Whatever Andrea did to the chin works just fine, and I like the armor. I hope this helps. Take care. All the best, Jim. And now we have a bit of a time jump to September 28th, 2004. Dear Lest and Ernest, here is script number 2 with my comments added in. There aren't many this time, and they all have to do with dialogue. Some of that is too stilted now, especially for Swan. Moraine speaks without nay contractions, but Swan is much more casual in her speech. There is at least one place where someone says something that isn't needed, and in Bennerman Steller's case, it's actually wrong. Sorry to have been so long with this. Mike Miller has shown me his artwork for the spread showing all of Tarvalin, and I must say that it is beautiful. I'm sure you all have seen that image. I'll throw it up now. I'm talking to him about getting my hands on it after the guys are done with it. Take care, guys. All the best, Jim. So there's only a few more of these emails, but they all kind of have to do with more and more integral stuff for the series, but we'll go ahead. None of them are going to be much longer anymore. So this is from Robert Jordan, February 3rd, 2005. Another bit of time jump coming in. Dear Les, things are going pretty well for me. I'm hard at work on Knife of Dreams. Now we have context of when this was happening. Closing in on the finish. It will be good to get regular updates again. It would be good to get together during Dragon Con, but as yet, I don't know what they will be having me do or when, so I can't make any commitments. Once I finish out my schedule, things will shake out. All the best. Take care. Good to hear from you again. All my best, Jim. And now we have a really cool one from Robert Jordan talking about the old tongue letter forms. I'm sending this to both of you to make sure it gets through to one of you. Here are the numerals I came up with. I think they fit well with Elah's alphabet. I'm considering that maybe the 0 should be in a mirror image so it doesn't resemble an A too much. Or a AD so much. What do you think, Jim? And then there is this very cool numeral alphabet that I will throw up on the screen here as well. So he was definitely kind of really getting to work, making things look special for this graphic novel, which I'm a big fan of. All right, coming in, we have 4 more emails, none of which is super long. From Robert to Les and Ernest again. The layout looks good, and I look forward to seeing the inks. I do have some corrections for the script, though. A correction for the wording on page 7, panel 1. It should read, Lan floated in the Ko-D1 with the sword. And in panel 2, it should read, Lan danced the forms, time flowed like cool honey. Also on page 12, panel 1, Mirren should be saying she's undisciplined, Laurel, and too old, I'd say. So just some more script corrections there. And then this is the longest one that is left, and it's still not that long. Dear Ernest, I agree the subject is layouts 14 to 18. I agree with most of consultants' suggestions. I know these are layouts and thus rough, but in the finals, the women really need to be wearing dresses. Oh my god. Even in the first image, they wouldn't be wandering about in just their shifts, especially since they have come all the way from their rooms in the Blue Aja quarter down to the accepted quarters. Both will be wearing something fairly plain, in wool most likely, though Moraine may have silk. Each has a white ribbon of mourning tied to her hair. On either side of the face looks 4 locks. While Moraine also has long laced-edged kerchiefs tied around her upper arms so that the ends dangle to her wrists. Page 15, panel 2 and 14. Here is shown in a coffin. That's a spoiler. Sorry, I'll take that out. There's a spoiler here that I won't, so I'll skip that. Regarding Sirin Voya on page 16 and 17, please heed the consultant's comments. She is as they described, not as drawn. Page 18, panel 4. You can shift Moraine's ring to another finger, but in fact, an Aes Sedai can wear her ring on any finger she chooses or not at all. Take care, Ernest. All the best, Jim. 2 more. Robert Jordan to Ernest Dabble, sent Monday, November 28th, 2005. Dear Ernest, page 1 looks terrific, but while Soroku is properly shown with 2 swords on his back there, on page 2 he is shown with only 1 sword on his back. Ooh, he spotted a continuity error. And then the final email coming through to us. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, there's a whole other page I didn't realize. From Robert Jordan. Dear Ernest, regarding the women, they are all right, but remember that the baggy trousers are garb of country women, not city women, who all wear dresses for that matter. Some country women will also. Some of these women should have short coat rather than a shawl. Man, this guy cares about the continuity of the clothing in his country. The Kandori men are all right by and large, but the peasant looks too medieval. Tell him think more 1690 to 1700 AD. By the way, Raquella looks just fine to me. From November 28th, 2005. Dear Ernest, the image of Edith is spectacular, although as noted elsewhere, she must have a great serpent ring. As for pages 15, 16, and 18, I haven't seen those yet. I have seen pages 12, 13, 14, and 16. On page 12, Swan seems to have a great serpent ring on her left hand in panel 2, but not on 4. On 13, Moraine doesn't seem to be wearing a great serpent ring. For the others, they are fine. Man, I don't want to get harping on these artists, but I mean, this is he's spotting a lot of problems, it seems like. RE Thematic Consultant, page 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, Ernest, here are my comments for 15, 17, and 18, plus some additional comments for 14 and 16. Page 14, panel 5. We should be able to see the vines and leaves in Swan and Moraine shawls. Page 15, panel 2 and 3. The sisters should all have white ribbons in their hair as a sign of mourning. These are ribbons fastened to the temple so that they dangle to either side of the face. Moraine also should have a long white lace serif tied around her upper arm, dangling so if it around her arms on both sides. The ends of the scarves should reach her waist. Page 15, panel 3. Moraine's dress is wrong here. For one thing, it shows folds where it should be fit quite snugly. For another, it displays cleavage where it should have a high neck. The titillation factor for these dresses comes entirely from the embroidery, which is done to emphasize the body's curves. God damn, Robert, you care, man, about some things I don't know if even I would care about as an author. Page 16, panel 3. Siren needs the Amerlin stole here too. Page 16, panel 4. The women doing the birching should have their hair in long, beaded braids that flail about as she works with a birch. This woman's hair is gathered atop her head. Page 17, panels 2 and 3. Siren needs a great serpent ring, right hand, in the Amerlin stole. Remember that Siren's stole is almost half as wide as Dura's. Page 17, panel 4. Moraine's shawl needs vines and leaves. Part of the Siren's stole would be visible here too. Page 18, panel 3. Moraine is galloping as though being pursued here, but in fact she is supposed to be riding away very quietly as to not attract no attention. Page 18, panel 5. The banker looks too tall, as if she were taller than Moraine. If she stood, remember she is marked shorter than Moraine. These artists, guys, you got to get the details. It's Robert Jordan. Have you not read how he writes? Subject. This is the last email. R.E. Swordsman. First off, Ernest, let's go over the 5 out of 6 who were actually described. 1. A lean Huron of a fellow. 2. A fat man. 3. A ginger-haired young splinter. 4. A bald man. 5. A fork-bearded fellow with his shoulders like a blacksmith. He wore a too fine coat, i.e. one clearly above his station. None of the 6 men is bare-chested. They are described as 6 ordinary men with swords at their belts. Like any man on the street in the city. These guys look like extras from Conan the Barbarian movie. Remember, Ernest, for these guys and for the Kandori men, their clothing should reflect about 1690 to 700, but with Japanese influences. That would not be carrying multiple swords, but rather one each. Let's see what we can come up with on another try. All the best, Jim. I can see how people could come in and say Robert Jordan's too picky or really like coming across too harsh here, but I actually really respect what I get from those emails, and that is that he is someone who cares about this creation, what he's making, on an incredibly deep personal level. And I mean, if you're paying these artists who are going to bring the world you've created to life, then I don't blame him whatsoever for being a bit maybe hyper nitpicky about some of these details, because a large part of the Wheel of Time is that the clothing and the things people wear are super hyper important for telling their story. It's one of the lengths he goes to as an author to bring his world to life. So for that reason, I could see how there's probably going to be some people in the comments who are like, wow, really? It's that detailed? But I don't know. I think it is. I think if you're bringing the panels and you're a hired artist and you're bringing those panels to life, an author has every right to tell you, look, it has to be dead on across the board. Anyway, that was some just cool notes we got from Robert Jordan for New Spring Novel. What I'm going to go ahead and jump into now is which scenes you all are most looking forward to seeing brought to the screen on the TV show that is coming. This will be a spoiler-filled section, and it's probably going to last all the way to the end of the video. So if you do not want to get into some spoilers, go ahead and click on off. But those of you who have gone ahead and finished the series or just don't care, feel free to stick right around. So I asked you verbatim, what scenes from Wheel of Time are you most excited to see brought to the screen? Actually, I said what scenes from WoT, but I figured most of you got it. From Manis Avijet, Daniel Greene, I'm really looking forward to seeing Dumai's Wells. I was literally weeping when reading that part. Yeah, Dumai's Wells was probably the de facto winner here. It's one of the most epic battles in all of fantasy in terms of detail and scope, implications, character moments. It has it all. There's just not a single thing you could really change about Dumai's Wells and it not be one of the most important, impactful moments in the entire series. So that one, I think, had the most upvotes. But coming in with a close second is one I would not have called, from Brian E.T., the climax of The Great Hunt. And I had to really go and read and rethink about The Great Hunt to even remember what exactly that was. But after thinking about it, I would agree I'm excited to see it. I'm also very nervous, because with the stuff happening in the sky and all of that, I think it could come across very poorly. So I'm a bit back and forth on that. If it's done well, you're right. It will be one of the best moments of the series, but there's no promise it will be done well. I've only read up until the Trollocs attack at the beginning of book 1. I will catch up eventually, but I'm quite curious. Oh, sorry, this is from Ryan Ratchford, but I'm quite curious to see how they introduce the world, the history, and opening village farm scenes. The mainstream audience will probably be reminded of PT's Lord of the Rings prologue and Shire beginning. I like to see how they'd make Wheel of Time stand out and be distinctive. Yeah, I get that, but if I was going to go ahead and do this, I think Robert Jordan intentionally wrote it to be similar to the Shire. So if I was in charge of this, I might actually lean into that a little bit. So I'm not in complete disagreement with you there. I'm excited to see it, but I disagree. I don't think they should pull away. I think they should lean into that, because Robert Jordan, you guys know, he loves fantasy. He wanted to come across as this author who is deeply into fantasy, so I'm all down for that. I'm cool for getting a Shire flashback there. From Donimic Vaughn, I think I'm saying that right, Vaughan, Daniel Greene, Dumai's Wells, or the cleansing of Saladin by Rand and ensuing battle. Also interesting to see how they portray Shardar Logoth. What are you looking forward to seeing adapted, sir? That'll be what I say at the end. I'll let you know at the end, man. And Cleansing of Saladin is a great choice. That is, in terms of just like epic moments, one of the greatest for sure. That is a real standout. Now this is from Dustin L. Matt's final fight with the Golem will be intense on-screen event. Yeah, if you are for more direct kind of confrontations and you want to see just those real intense moments, I think in terms of just and it's not necessarily epic, but it's more of just an intense personal comeuppance revenge scene. Absolutely. I cannot wait for that. From Swaswane Orandi, I'm going to just keep, just not even try at this point. Moraine and Lanfear at the docks of Carrion is number one for me, but Rands Reunion visions are a close second. Honestly, some choices I wouldn't have thought of, but both very solid choices. The showdown at the docks. Oh, man. Lanfear, as a character, I'm afraid they're going to get wrong. Because to me, Lanfear is really about, really almost like she's a very psychological character. It's about figuring out what her real motivations are, what drives her in reality. And it's a mystery that throughout the series, we as the reader are slowly, unveiled to. And I'm afraid they might dumb it down or simplify it for the show, and that would make scenes like the docks at Carrion not really work. Rands Reunion visions, for sure. Everything Aiel, I'm stoked for. You know that about me. I know your love of Aes Sedai, and you know my love of Aiel. Respect loves respect here. From Twin Tree, Manas Avijit, literally weeping my guy. I don't know what you're referring to. Sorry, I don't know that one. If someone in the comments could let me clarify that, I'm a little confused. From Azil Daly, Rimmon Dedgwitt is the composer for Game of Thrones and Westworld, and his compositions are incredible. So I think this person's basically saying like what they're most looking forward to is good music, and we also talked about music a little bit in the last episode. The Game of Thrones scores are very, very good. I don't know if he's composed every episode. He probably has. They probably just kept one composer to keep a similar thematic thing going forward here. But if you're looking forward to the music, just in general, I get it. From Ian Ledecky, I'll figure it out. Personally, I find myself looking forward to a lot, and only some of them are big and flashy. 1, Winter's Night. The dark tension of Rand making his way through the forest, Tam's fevered memories, the shadow spawn around every tree, the desperate hope that if he can only make it to the village, he'll be safe, only to find the destroyed husk of a town and haunted, confused Egwene who is spacing out upon arrival. There are few better starts to a series. Yeah. That's what I like about it feeling like the Shire at the beginning, is because the Shire in the movies especially is never really touched. I want to see us get that Shire introduction and then burn it. And I want this to be a brutal scene that I think would be wonderful in terms of really standing itself apart from a lot of the other shows that'll be coming down the road. 2, on the road with Lan and Moraine, the time comes when the group can finally pause for a time. Of course, Lan starts teaching the boys how to use the weapons they brought with them. I really want that mentor moment between the boys and Lan. Really good choice. Yeah, especially the beginning, the Great Hunt has one of my favorite Rand scenes that I hope they keep in as well. Perhaps the scene I'm looking forward to the most, Rand's horror upon realizing he can channel the end of the world. This has to be done well. I have faith they will. Scenes like that, they will knock out of the park. I can't imagine they'll screw that kind of stuff up. In the Great Hunt, Rand digging through the saddlebags and horrified to find the dragon banner. Of course, Matt and Perrin walk up to him at just this moment, and the whole scene accumulates in Matt asking if Rand can channel, and the three feeling somewhat horrified by the implications. Yeah, that's one of the best character shifts in terms of starting one of the larger themes of the story of all. I think one of the larger scenes of all of the Wheel of Time, which is how much can friendship survive through how much can you put a friendship through and still come out with these people who you grew up with, and that is one of the real catalysts to that larger theme. So I'm totally in agreement with you there. That's an important moment. The sword fight at the end of the Great Hunt where Rand kills a Blade Master via the strategy of attack, attack, attack. Yes, it's silly, but I think it marks a statement moment for Rand's development. Yeah, I think it's actually a bit of foreshadowing. I could be reading too much into this. We could be reading too much into it together here. But I think it kind of is foreshadowing for Rand's just manic, desperate state in the next book, where he's just, everything is so, I have to just get it done. I just go, go, go. I think it was a brilliant little foreshadowing, but that's just maybe me reading too much into it. 6, Matt's defeating Gawain and Glad at the White Tower. We don't need to talk about this more because obviously, we all look forward to it. It's going to be an amazing moment. It's going to be beautiful. Yeah. It's great. Rand takes Kalendor. What else needs to be said? Nothing. You're right. It's beautiful. So many others. Roydion and the Alice history, Rand visiting the Black Tower, watching the first few male channelers do as well as Nynaeve's healing. Yeah, there's so many moments in this series that I hope are translated well. And, oh man, if they're not, if you don't do this series justice, we're losing an opportunity to see one of the greatest stories, in my opinion, ever told brought to the screen. And I really hope Wheel of Time is done well. And I've heard Jeff Bezos is a big fan, and I know he's kind of a controversial figure for like the sweatshop conditions he puts his employees into. I'm not a big fan of him as a person, but I do hope that means the show might be a little better, given that extra oomph, that extra, oh man, the CEO's a fan, let's put every effort we can into it. Or, I don't know, is he a CEO? I don't know, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Moving on. From Ben Greene, Matt breaking into the stone, and of course, Do As Wells. Yeah, I never thought about Matt breaking into the stone in terms of the TV show, but that could come across too goofy if they do it wrong. So, yeah, that's important. From Ilkurskabrig, I'm sorry, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I'm hoping for some Lord of the Rings-like battle scenes. Yes, Game of Thrones battle scenes are typically chaotic and extraordinarily disorganized, and I don't really get that vibe from Wheel of Time battle scenes. I do get the much more organized, militaristic, marching type battle scenes we get in Lord of the Rings. Especially they're still brutal, but they're not as brutal as Game of Thrones. So I agree with you. Like the opening cinematic for the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the last battle should have a lot of those vibes, in my opinion, as well as a few other battles. Matt's trial with the Aelfin and/or Eelfin and his subsequent hanging, obtaining of his spear. I'm so nervous they're going to cut some of the Eelfin stuff, because I can see how you could cut it, but it's some of the best stuff for Matt, and really is amazing moments for his journey. Book 14, Land Fighting Demon Dread. Last battle. Just Matthew Stormbliss just says the last battle. Yeah, completely agree there. That's gonna be big. Stephen L. Spoilers. Rands reunion with Tam, and of course Do As Wells. Rands reunion with Tam. That's one of the few scenes that really got to me, and is probably the single most important signifier of how far gone Rand is at that time, when he just loses it. That scene has weight. That I didn't think about that one, but you hit a scene there. Man, Rafe Judkins, I doubt you listen to this show, but these are all these are things you need to put hours of thought into before you even start writing, because this is about so many angles and all these different threads coming together for so many of these scenes. From Otterboom, Do As Wells, and Perrin/Slayer fights. Dude, Dream World fights are gonna be dope. There's no way they can cut out the Dream World. It's way too crucial to the series, and I am so amped to see how they just imagine. It's gonna be like Doctor Strange, but even more intense and brutal fights, because they're just jumping everywhere, doing all kinds of stuff. But I want it to be more of a intense, like almost boxing match type feel, where it's just this. You feel the heavy hits going on. That's something I'm really looking forward to, and could be done poorly on accident. Man, this is from Deadgaze001. Man, there are so many good scenes on the table for me. I truly looking forward to Bashir and Perrin's first meeting. Yeah, that's a really funny scene. I like the expectation subversion there. But that scene second to me wanting to see Nynaeve alert the Valkyrie of Land's ride to Tarwin's Gap. I could see that'd be a really good scene. That scene still brings tears to my eyes. Battle interests me less than character-driven scenes, but Rand's actions in Saldaea, following the siege of Malden, I think, are awe-inspiring, and I desperately want to see them be brought to life. Oh, man. Yep. Honestly, Matt's hangover apology from Elaine irritated Nynaeve and Edudar, followed by Elaine and Nynaeve putting their foot down with the properly raised Aes Sedai and the kin. The look on the kin's face when the girls are deferred to by other Aes Sedai as being stood on. Yeah, that stuff's going to be really funny if it's done right. Comedic timing's important for all of WoT, so I hope they get some real good comedy writers in there and comedy actors. Kev Ratso, I can't wait to see Lan introduced. I hope it's subtle. I think one of the best parts of Lan is that it's not like he's introduced like a Captain America, rah, he's so incredible. it's more of a, who is this guy? What is this guy? And we slowly figure out, like, holy God, he's amazing. He's a monster with a sword, and his history and all the weight on his shoulders. I like the slow revelation. Spoilers. I'm excited to see some more gut-wrenching scenes brought to screen. That there's beauty in the silence and pacing that can be done with the acting that focuses the audience to slow down that can't be done so easily in a book. WoT is full of a lot of heavy tension, which I love, and it's hard for me to pick a favorite. Rand attempting necromancy, that's one of the most gut-wrenching scenes in all of fantasy. Everything after Varen telling Egwene the dress you are wearing is green. Talmanis being wounded with the Takandari wrought blade in the last battle. Every scene with Ituralda, Perrin unknowingly killing Roland. My number one, however, would be the prologue to Tower's Midnight, where the Tower Commander and his son. The book brought me to tears there. They'll show how the potential to ruin lives in that scene in a good way, of course. Yeah, all good picks. All good picks across the board. Squidman, the first book of the Two Rivers. I think that will be the most important scene in the series to do right. Yeah, we think we talked about that. It's such an important, okay, here's the Shire, burn it. Like, it's, you got to have that, oh, you guys want to hear my demon voice? All right, so it's going to be like, we're introduced to the Shire. It's so pretty. Oh, so nice. But then you got to have that attack happen, and suddenly it's like murder and death. That's not a filter. I can just do that. I like that transition, and I want to see that done all within the first episode. I know it could be maybe too much in one episode, but I think the introduction from the road all the way to the attack on the Two Rivers should be the first episode. I think Rand getting to the Two Rivers, Rand getting to the village should be the ending of the first episode. I think the two most important scenes that I believe will play an important role in setting the tone and visualization of the franchise is the opening chapter where Rand sees the Fade, yes, as well as the initial Trolloc engagement at the Althor Tharm. These scenes are going to put a lot of pressure on our lead Rand to really commit to a solid performance, and the choices made by production in terms of the look, acting, our initial bad guy will be super important in making sure we know how desperate the situation is and how fast it starts to deteriorate. But honestly, the way in which Dark Friend or evil sightings up until Tom. Spoilers, face off against the Fade, where our two lads make a break for it, are going to be crucial for the series like this in terms of solidifying that sense of urgency and terror we feel throughout the Eye of the World. Yeah, that all is important. Momentum going forward. You hit on the momentum factor there. I've done some acting in college. I did some theater classes. I helped some people, like friends of mine who are doing plays and stuff like this for their like senior projects. And I'm just gonna sound weirdly egotistical. I got compliments from like professors and stuff that I was a decent actor for not having a ton of training and all that, because I was, I've been doing public speaking and stage stuff and improv and all this stuff my whole life, and I'm very willing to throw myself into a role. And I think everything you said here for the actor, I'm just saying that to lend what I'm about to say some credence. The actor who is cast as Rand or Matt or really anyone in the Two Rivers who has to go through these things, they need to really throw themselves into the fact that the character, that they're young kids, that they shouldn't be just scared. They should be clearly going through trauma. I don't want this to be it's so scary, next scene, everyone's all right, like we so often see, honestly, in Game of Thrones. It bothers me how often horrific things happen, and the next scene, the person seems fine. I want the trauma of what happens to stay with the character for a while, until the end of the Eye of the World, and then just show them as changed people after that because of what they've been through. Two more coming in here from Josh Saunders. Daniel Greed, this is so hard to be honest. I think it would be between the taking of Kalimdor during the Dragon Reborn, the removal of the Taint, the last battle at Lord Alganar's Manor, or Rand destroying the whole of the Shadow's forces at Meridon. The reasoning behind them, I think they will be some of the most epic SFX scenes in the series. The problem is, you're assuming the SFX will be good. You got to remember, guys, that's not guaranteed. Depending on who they hire, it could go very poorly. Granted, that's being more and more rare that these effects are coming across poorly, but it still occasionally does happen. And even in like Avengers Infinity War had a few shots where I was just like, what the hell? Like, how did that slip by? Most notably at the Battle of Wakanda, when there's like people jumping off ships, all of a sudden they just turn like these rubber rag dolls. And after seeing that in something as big as Infinity War, it makes me a bit, oh god, could we see a bunch of badass FX for channeling here? Spoilers for the latter books. This is from Pitonio YT. The scene I wanted to see is when Rand comes off of Dragon Mount with everything growing around him. I think seeing all the dead and rotting plants suddenly growing around his feet where he steps will be a huge clue as how he's changed. Another thing I want to see is Min's point of view. I want to see people with auras and pictures above their head. Man, I could do a whole video talking about how or what we need to do with the Min character. Because, honestly, I think there's a slight chance of her being cut, which is terrifying because I think she's so crucial. But I could see how a producer or a writer or whatever could look at her and say, well, she's not really doing a whole lot. It'd be hard to really show the things she does, so blah, 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 let's cut her. And I would hate that because she is so crucial, Rand. And I'm not saying anyone who really understands the series would say that. I'm saying people who don't understand the series could look at her and just be like, yeah, take her out and replace her parts of their characters. But yeah, I agree with you. Min's foretellings should be pretty epic as well. I don't know. I'll put some more thought into that before I contribute more there. But the scene I am most looking forward to seeing brought to, the screen here. What I want to see above all else, and what really gets me amped up, is seeing Tom sit outside the Dark One's prison and just guard Rand while he finishes off and deals with the Dark One. I don't know why, but I've always loved that. The fact that this old Glee man is just sitting there composing, killing people. I think it's one of the most poetic finishes to a character relationship between Rand and Tom. What they go through early in the series together and what Tom really is for Rand throughout the series. This mentor, this guardian, doing all kinds of things that Rand doesn't even know for him, and the fact that, well, he's a father figure to Rand. So while his son kind of type character figure, who Rand really does remind him of that nephew who he loved, who he lost. He goes and he accomplishes what he needs to accomplish. Tom is the one just waiting, just sitting, making sure he's okay, and I find that to be beautiful. And my personal thing I'm looking forward to most, assuming they cast Tom well, I just want to see that actually done. And I won't see it for many, many years until the last season, if it actually makes it to the last season. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you have not already. And I know what you're thinking. What do I got to do for next episode? What's the question? Well, I asked you last time, what scene are you looking forward to most? Cool. Here's the next question, and this one's going to be a little trickier, and it's kind of specific, so good luck. Maybe I'm not expecting as many answers, but I want some of y'all's opinions. What do you think is the scene that will be done the worst? I know that's a strange question, and it's pessimistic and maybe just a bit overall pointless. Not pointless, just why am I asking that? But you guys always think of things I don't. And there's going to be a lot of scenes that are tricky to do. Like, there's just things that are difficult to show to a reader, like compulsion. How would you effectively communicate that? So either which scene or which, in general, character, let's make it a little broader. What character, scene, or arc storyline do you think will be portrayed the worst, has the least likelihood of coming across well? Like, if Tom Bombadil was brought in Lord of the Rings, the movies, it probably wouldn't have worked out that great. Who is the Tom Bombadil, or what is the Tom Bombadil of Wheel of Time? That's just going to be so hard to, assuming they actually do bring into the show. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here and keep seeing these WoT talks come on down the road. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.